Hi, this is Summer with Summer's Tips and Stitches, and in this video I'm going to tell you the top 5 things that you need if you would like to do some amigurumi. Yeah! So amigurumi is, I believe, a Japanese word that we crocheters use, because I don't know that knitters use it, to describe little crochet toys. I'll show you a couple. This is a Crochet Society. It was one of the first 5 boxes, and it's a little cat. My friend Doris, who has a YouTube channel, although I believe she's taking a bit of a break right now, she made this little octopus. And, oh, here's a little bunny. Little toys that are made mostly with single crochet. Now, there are a few things that you should have if you are going to get started on this project. So I'm going to go through and list those 5 things. In the description box below, I will put links to where you could purchase these things, possibly from Amazon, Hobby Lobby, Joann's. You can just click on those links or head off to the store. All right, let's get started. So these 5 items will be in random order. There's no one thing that's any more important because you're going to need them all. So I'm just going to start with my number 5 thing, and that is some stuffing. You will need stuffing. You can, of course, go to any local craft store, even Walmart, and buy a bag of Polyfill. I'll put a link in the description to some Polyfill because you can get it off of Amazon. And the nice thing about Amazon is if you wanted to just get a giant, like, economy size packaging, you can. I typically keep, I got this idea from Doris because Doris, she is not a fan of amigurumi. And she would send me hers, and I keep this little cute bag, this Muslim bag or whatever it's called, of Polyfill right in my crochet cart, because whenever I have the hankering to do it, I just pull out this little bit, and then I have a bigger container in the back. Now, if you're like Summer, I don't want to go buy Polyfill, or I'm on a tight budget, because we all are, right? There are some places that you can steal Polyfill from. I have taken Polyfill from older couch cushion pillows or other pillows, other throw pillows that, let's say when we got a new couch set, the other pillows matched the old couch. I just took the innards of those pillows and reused them. Also, I have been known to steal Polyfill from my children's stuffed animals. And I don't know why I feel like this is so funny, but yeah, I have gone in there and pulled out a toy from the toy bin that they haven't touched in 100 years and took a little Polyfill out of them and then threw the shell away. So Polyfill is something that you can use. Now, there are some people that use yarn scraps in Polyfill. So, you know, all those little niblets that you cut off after you finished, they save them up, probably in some kind of jar or container, and maybe stuff with those. But Polyfill is a must for the stuffed animals. I am going to link in the description below the number 5, where I list where you can also purchase Polyfill, a video from Mama Llama Kayla. She is a Yarny YouTube friend, and she has a video where she goes over some good techniques for stuffing. Because if you don't stuff good enough in a little while, your creature or whatever you made will be floppy, and his innards will be compact. Or if you overstuff, you can see holes, and I think I have one here that I kind of overstuffed, and you can kind of see, well, not as well on the camera, how they're stretched out. So there is a fine technique to getting the right amount of Polyfill in your creatures or your toys or whatever it is, your pillows. So I'll link that video as well for Mama Llama Kayla, because she is the one that gave me some good tips on how to stuff. Okay, so the number 5 thing again was Polyfill. So the number 4 thing, which was my number 1 on my other top 5 list, is a stitch marker. So it is crucial with amigurumi that you have a stitch marker. Stitch markers are where you mark your first stitch in the round. Most amigurumis that I have made at some point start off in the round. And basically, you're creating shapes that you then sew together to create your object. So even if it's the head or the body or even these little feet, you need to mark your first stitch of that round, and then you go around and do them, and then you take out that stitch marker, you do that next stitch, and then you put that stitch marker back in. So you can use any kind of stitch marker. Again, I'll link some that I can find off of Amazon, because you can, I wonder if I have any in here. You can buy these little plastic ones. These ones are a little stiff. I've had a few subscriber friends make some for me. This one has like a necklace clasp. This one from Karen, Happiness Homemade. I don't know if she makes videos very much anymore. This one has an earring back, and I love it. And then also somebody mentioned in a video, you can use a scrap of yarn. If you cannot come across a stitch marker, you can take a little bit of yarn, you lay an opposing color. You're not going to want to use the same color you're crocheting with, or you might not see it as well. And lay that in that stitch and then crochet around. And if you use a long enough piece of yarn, you can just fold it up and then crochet over it and then pull that back end out. Also, some other free options if you don't want to spend some money on stitch markers. Bobby pins. I believe Z or Zelda had mentioned that she had used a bobby pin before. I wish I had one here because I've been wearing them lately to clip up my bangs, but I don't. And you just slide that bobby pin right through the stitch. Another free one, if you can scrounge them up somewhere, would be a paper clip. You can use a paper clip for a stitch marker. And then some people use safety pins. So you don't necessarily have to go buy them, but you do need some kind of device to mark the beginning of the round. Okay, let's move on to our next item. The next item that I feel you need to have when you're doing some amigurumi is something to make eyes or eyeballs. Now, there are two options. The first I'm going to talk about here are these safety eyes. I purchased these safety eyes off of Amazon. I believe I purchased this container at Hobby Lobby because I like a container. This organizes my eyes. Eyes come in all different kinds of sizes. You have some real big eyes, and then they come in different colors. So you can have a blue eye doll or a green eye doll or a brown eye doll. Then they come in smaller sizes. Look at that, that'd be a red eye. You can also get them in clear. Also, you can get them really single tiny. Here, I'm gonna show you one. I'm running low on these right now because I've been making an octopus. And as you heard from maybe my last video, I'm not exactly sure how you pluralize that, if that's octopi or octopuses. But I've been making them, and so far I've used about 8 of these up. These are little tiny eyes. This is just half of it, because also to make it the safety part, so that if your little youngin is chewing on your little toy that you made, the eyeball will not come out. There is, and here's this other little container, these little plastic things, I don't know what to call them, that you, like an earring back, and you jam it on the back of them. See that? It's a little bit smaller, takes a lot of work sometimes to get it on there. Sometimes you don't want to like stretch it out, because then it'll become loose and it'll fall off, and then your youngin will swallow the safety eye. So these are what you put on the inside. You poke the eye into the amigurumi, and then you put this on the inside. So you've got to do it before you close it up, because otherwise it's gone. Again, I bought these off of Amazon. When you buy the eyeballs off of Amazon, the safety eyes, they give you the eyeballs and these little containers, or these little safety clasps. And then, like I said, I like to organize them. The other thing, a side note, depending on what you're making, besides eyes, you might want to have a nose. And so you can also buy noses. See that cute little pink nose? Here's a brown nose. And I know they're noses because they're a little triangular. And then here's a bigger nose. So you might want some safety noses. Again, it's the same thing. You put it in the front, you poke it through, you get your hand up into the back of the head, inside of it, and you put the cap on the back. Now there are other options for safe for eyes and noses. Now, if you, again, are on a budget, you can embroider, but I personally am terrible at embroidery. Do you see those? Like this eye isn't so bad, but this one looks crazy compared to that one. So you can embroider, and there's its little nose. I would either get some embroidery floss, or you can peel your yarn apart. You know how they have like 4 strands twisted together? Peel out just one of them, get a tapestry needle, and you can sew on the eyes and the nose embroidery. I am terrible at that, like I've said. Also, you can use buttons. I have seen dolls, and actually there's a very famous, I say, there's a popular toy, the Lalaloopsy dolls, and they have buttons for eyes. So you can use buttons. So if you don't, I mean, and you can buy a jar of buttons at Goodwill for like 50 cents. I just saw one the other day. So if you can't get safety eyes, I do suggest, when I go to Joann's, they usually only sell them in packs of 2 or 3. So it's a little tiny plastic bag with like 2 or 3 noses in them, or 2 sets of eyes, versus going on to Amazon where you can buy the container this big of eyes and noses for just a couple dollars more. So if you plan on going on a crazy amigurumi run and making tons of toys, like for everybody in your Sunday school or all your grandkids or nieces or nephews or Christmas presents, then I would suggest going on to Amazon to purchase them in bulk, because Joann's and Hobby Lobby sell them in little packs. Or, like I said, use those free options. You can embroider the eyes and nose on, or you can use buttons. But that is my number 3 item. I'm ready to move on. Okay, so my next item that you'll need, which you most likely will already have, is when you're doing amigurumi, you need to use smaller hooks. So for example, when you are crocheting with worsted weight yarn, which is a lot of times amigurumi is made out of worsted weight yarn. You can buy a good old skein of Red Heart. In fact, I love the Red Heart worsted weight, or size 4, yarn for amigurumi. But you don't use the size 5 hook that's recommended, because what you're trying to make is a very unholy piece of fabric, if you will. And so amigurumi is generally made with a hook that's smaller than a 3. Sometimes they ask for a 2, 2.5, 3. So you're gonna want to use a smaller hook, and it works out just fine. I, of course, love my tulips. I'll put a link in the description below to the tulips. A lot of people love the clovers, and there's all kinds of fancy hooks. But the thing is if you are generally crochet and you're making shawls and baby blankets and lap gowns and whatnot, and you want to try your hand at amigurumi, you're gonna need to make sure that you have a hook that is smaller. Like I said, I've seen them require hooks sizes as small as a 2.0, 2.25, 2.5, 3. So check out the pattern that you want and make sure you have a smaller hook. This was an easy one. Now I'm gonna move on to my number 1 thing you're gonna need. So now that we've got the basic tools, you're gonna need some yarn, some smaller hooks, something to use for eyes or noses. You're gonna need some kind of stitch marker, and then your polyfill. You need a pattern. Now I've taught myself how to read patterns, and because I did not, I guess, have anybody teach me, and I slowly made my way into the pattern reading. I find that patterns made by other crocheters are like easier to read than the patterns that are made by Red Heart and those other companies, because they use less words and more abbreviations. And the patterns that are made by fellow crocheters that you can find on Ravelry, Etsy, or Fibrosity, those are written by people, and sometimes they use more words, and I need more words. So my favorite crochet amigurumi designer is the Friendly Red Fox. Now I'm going to try to pull this down. If you've been watching me for a while, you'll know that I make a lot of her items. This is a little sloth that she designed, and last summer I think I made about 10 of these little guys. I made them for all of my kids, my nieces and nephews, a couple teachers at school. And so she makes amazing patterns. She has dolls, and I love the way she designs her patterns. They're very easy to make. most of them have a pretty fluid body to where you're really only sewing on the arms. The head, they usually start, if you're making the dolls, they start with one leg, you branch over, you bring up the other leg, you make the whole body into the head. And you're usually only sewing on maybe a couple detail pieces, maybe some ears and some arms, because that is a hard thing to do, to sew on the pieces. So I really do recommend the Friendly Red Fox. I'm not sponsored by her. She hasn't given me any treats. I actually think I found her through Laurel, the Dabbling Hook. She made one of her patterns and I loved it. And so I looked up the Friendly Red Fox, and she is my go-to. She also has this really cool thing. If you type her into the Google search and you find her website, she has an ABC animal guide where she has animals for every letter of the alphabet. So there's a lot under her. Many of her patterns are free on her own website, which I will look and put a link in the description. But then you can also buy them if you want to print them off, I believe from Ravelry. I haven't purchased any of her patterns. She does have a book, a digital download book, if you will, where you would have to, if you like paper copies, print it out yourself. But almost all of her patterns are free on her website. She's got her own website. But also you can go to Ravelry. The pattern that I am using right now, because I'm making this little octopus thing, I found off of Ravelry. I typed in octopus, crochet, amigurumi octopus, and I was then linked to a free pattern that is on a different website, and it's called Misadventures of Alice. So I'll link the Friendly Red Fox and the Misadventures of Alice. These little octopus are really cute. Now this is actually her specific design for this little octopus or this little squid. I've made 3 of them so far. And I just made another one actually. And I changed the way she designed her feet and I made it my own way. And so that's a really cool thing. Once you've learned amigurumi and you've got an idea of how the shapes go, when you're looking at their patterns, you can make your own. I have designed one of my own amigurumis, and I can put a link in the description to my tutorials. What I did was I wrote my pattern and then I made a tutorial for each of the pieces, and then I put in the description the written pattern that I wrote for that. And I'm gonna get up and get them for you. And I made this little gnome. You can make this gnome in any of the colors that you want. This is a Valentine's Day gnome. You can make it in red and green or red and white, make it Christmassy, or you can make it in Eastery colors. And you can follow these and just change the colors to make it for whatever season. But amigurumi, once you get going, you start learning the shapes. And you just sew those pieces together and you can start making your own little toys. So the 5th thing, that was it, the easy patterns. There are lots of amigurumi patterns. There's lots of pattern books. I've made videos about, I was hoping I had one right here on the side to show you, but there's so many cute amigurumi toys that you can make, and you can buy these patterns on Amazon. I'll link a few of the books in the description box below if you prefer to look at those versus a Friendly Red Fox. But these are patterns that I found to be fairly easy to follow, okay? Because you're gonna need to start easy. Like I said, the Friendly Red Fox, she was one of my first, and I was so proud of myself when I made that first doll. So, and then of course you're gonna need yarn, you guys. That is a basic, but a lot of patterns will tell you what yarn they use to make that. My go-to for amigurumi is Red Heart or Big Twist. You want a nice, thick acrylic that's gonna hold its shape and that is washable, because you're making toys, right? And if so, you do give it to a youngin', it's gonna get dirty. You are not going to want to use Malabrigo or Super Wash Merino unless you're making a very fancy toy that nobody gets to play with. All right, thanks for watching my top 5 things that you need for amigurumi video. I'm sure there's other things you need, right? We all find things that we need or want. But this is a good basic start if you wanted to head out, pick up a few of these things, and make yourself a little toy. All right, thanks for watching and subscribing. Thanks for liking and sharing my videos. And until the next video, happy crafting. Bye.